Welcome to MacGyver's Workshop, where you never know what we're going to be working on next. If you're not too careful, you just might learn something. Hi there. Welcome to MacGyver's Workshop, where you never know what we're going to be working on next, and if you're not too careful, you just might learn something. As most of my viewers know, the workshop and YouTube channel is all a bit of a hobby for me. Therapy, if you will. I work a regular day job. I have a career in information technology. I work for a big global company. As part of that, what I love so much about this job is that on occasion, sometimes you're not in a box. We never know. Surprisingly, like the YouTube channel, we never know what we're going to be working on next. So we're building a new plant, and in that we're implementing solar power. So in our control room or server room, we need to mount our inverters and transformers and things like that, and they'll be in a server rack, much like this. And what we need to do is we need to build something to mount into that server rack, which has screw holes all the way up and down, and it's broken down into units, or U as we refer to it. And this is a 42U rack, which is a big vertical rack. Normally it would be full of computer servers and disk drive arrays or network switches, things like that. And in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to build a shadow box, if you will, that will bolt to these rails and set in about 12 inches and give us a place to mount this hardware that is going to control our solar power system. And the ultimate goal is that it will offset power usage for running the servers and the computers and all that sort of thing. So you could figure out a way to maybe buy something that would suit this purpose. I'm not sure that there's any such thing out there available, but the spirit of our company, which one of the things I love about our company is that they foster innovation and being resourceful and coming up with ideas to do something that, of course, yes, it's business, save money, increase profitability, so forth and so on, but there's a lot of extra things that go along with that when you task your team with a project and let them be free to come up with ideas, and not all of them make hay, but in this case my boss called me up and said, hey, what would it take to do this, and explain the whole server rack and the solar thing and all that. And oh yeah, I can whip that together in no time. I like to keep work and personal separate, but you know what? MacGyver's Workshop's on the case here. So metal is expensive. We've got about $138 worth of materials here, and of course MacGyver's Workshop has all the tools and the welders and all this, that, and the other. So we're going to put this thing together, and we're going to make a really nice rack mountable shadow box that will also, and I didn't mention, needs to support around about 400 pounds. So, the devil's always in the details. So you can't just throw something together willy-nilly. We got to build this right. And in MacGyver's Workshop fashion, where we overbuild and overdo things, we're going to make it look good too. Now to build this, as I said, it needs to support a bunch of weight, so it needs to be strong, but we don't want it to be so heavy that it's just absolutely unwieldy. So What we'll use is just standard off-the-shelf 1-inch angle, and we'll put that in the 2 back corners, and this will also wrap around the front and have the holes in it for the rails where we actually attach it to the server rack. And those in the end are actually what's going to support the weight of all this equipment that's going to be mounted in there. We'll start from the back and work our way forward. This is 16 gauge flat steel, and it's basically a 1/16 of an inch thick. Sorry, I forget the millimeters, but I'll post it in the little subtitle thing here. And this is going to be the back of the shadow box, and the equipment will it has little hangers on it, and then they slide over and slide down on these hangers, and that's for serviceability. As in a solar power system, if an inverter goes out, you want to be able to change it out pretty quick. You don't want to have to deal with a whole bunch of nuts and bolts and things like that. I had them pre-cut it for me just to save time, and this is will fit exactly a 42U rack. And we'll take our 1-inch angle, and to build the back of our shadow box here, and we'll slide this up under here. And as I said, this is going to support up to around about 400 pounds. So we can't fool around here. We need to make this pretty sturdy. And we'll use the top of our shadow box as our base point or reference point. Everything we do will measure off of that one point, which is this top corner. So if you make it right and everything, the math all adds up from that corner, you'll have a good square plumb box that actually fits when you go to put it in. One thing you always want to do, especially if you have your material cut or set up in any way when you buy it, always double check it for being square. No one's ever going to guarantee perfection, but as long as you're within a smidge, you're good. And this is off maybe a 64th of an inch, and that's okay. We can live with that. That's well within the margin of error. So what we're going to do is we're going to lock this down to make sure that stays put. And we will do that with cabinet clamps. These are a very hot commodity around my workshop. So I keep all kinds of them, all sizes, because they always come in handy. Right. So now we know that our reference corner is tight and it's perfect. Now we're going to go ahead and tack weld each corner, and then we can flip this over and put our welds on the back side of this angle, because we don't want to put any welds in here yet because we're going to have our side panels going in. So we want to do all our welding for now on the outside. Let's get going. Now, those 4 tack welds will hold everything in position. We're not exactly too worried about in the middle yet. we'll tweak that once we get it all flipped over. Now we've got our piece flipped over. Of course, it's held together because it's tacked on all four corners. Now, since even angle can flex and bow, I've got it jigged up and locked into place right at the measurement where it needs to be. So if you take measurements all up and down here, they'll all be the same. So now we're gonna do some more tack welds down each side and get that going. Now, we'll clean up any little nibs or spatter from our welds. All right, so now we're going to tack weld our side panels in. And we've got really neat stuff for that. Okay, these little magnetic pieces, and they'll set your angle perfect. So, I mean, it don't get no better than that. And remember that this is our corner, so our reference corner. So we will guide everything off of that. And of course, we can always check it with our square. That's good. Alright, so what we'll do now is I'll use my speed square here to make sure that my panel is a true 90 degrees off of our reference corner, and then I'll tack weld on the back side here, this angle and this piece of sheet metal. Now we got her in there good. We'll take our magnets out, and then we'll flip it over, and then we'll finish out our welds on both sides of this angle. And once we get this side done, then we'll start on the other. Now that we have our sides all welded and we've sanded everything and roughed everything up, so essentially this will be ready for primer. The last thing we have to do is we have to put our kind of rack rail mount on here, and that'll be with another piece of angle, and it will come up this way and come out, and then that's where our holes will be for it to screw into the rack itself. Always want to use a metal scribe. They work a lot better than trying to use a pen or a pencil. Alright, so I've got all my holes scribed out here. I got 2U, which will be 4 M6 mounting screws here, 4 M6 mounting screws here, and 4 M6 mounting screws here. Now, having that on both sides will be more than enough to support 400 pounds hanging off of this. So, now you've heard the story, measure twice, cut once. Well, on this one, we're going to measure twice, measure some more, then check it, and then measure it one more time just to make sure we're good. Okie dokie. Now I'm in my server room at work, and what I'm doing is I'm checking out all my little scribe marks that I measured and making sure they line up with the holes in the rack. You can see the scribe marks there, and they're all lining up dead in the middle. Ah, see? Got a little bit of an error there. These bottom ones don't line up. Well, we're going to have to fix that. So we'll remark those. See, this is why you always double and triple check everything. So see, I was probably like 3/8 of an inch off there, but just on that one. So we're good. And we'll go back and scribe on these new marks, and then that's where we'll drill our holes. So now we have all of our notches or scribe marks here where our holes need to go. And I also have a scribe line. It's a little hard to see in here, but it's also coming down this way. So we know where the hole goes in relation to this dimension here. And as I said, it was a good thing that we checked, because I got off just a little smidge on this one. You can see the scribe marks versus the Sharpie, about 3/8 of an inch off. So that would have been embarrassing. Okay, so I've got my little work vise set up here, and I've got it set so that when I pull my drill bit down, it lines up right on this line right here. Let's see if we can't zoom in a little bit and help you see that. So now you'll see where when the bit comes down, it'll line up right on this scribe mark. And it'll do that every time. All I have to do is slide the bar this way and line up on these marks. Now, I need to transfer all these dimensions over to this other piece of metal that's going to be on the other side, and it needs to line up just like this. So what we'll do is we make sure we're good and lined up here, okay, and then I have everything, the two pieces clamped, opposed in between two blocks of wood here. And then all I have to do is just take and follow these marks right over to the other piece. And then bring the same dimension here. And now I've replicated the same exact dimensions on the other opposing piece that'll be on the other side. I've got my rail clamped onto the side panel here, and I have it up about maybe 3/8 of an inch. And what we're going to do is we're going to tack weld it, hold it in place, and we can take our clamps off and weld it real good. We're going to weld it a little bit on the inside here and on the back side over here, so that'll be for extra strength. So let's get cracking. Now we're going to go ahead and put our supports in at the top and bottom. And what this will do is this will just kind of stiffen up the box structure a little bit. Now our center to center dimension on the holes needs to be 18 5/16 inch. So we'll go ahead and we've got our center to center lined up, and I'm holding it in place with this cabinet clamp. And we will go ahead and weld this piece in and then trim it off. It'll look kind of like what this piece did here. Whew. So after we got our end supports and reinforcements in there and shot a coat of primer and put some color to it, and she's ready to go in the server rack. So now one other thing that we did with this is rather than paint it, I used a kind of a sound deadening kind of coating. If you were to run your fingers across it, it would almost feel kind of like bed liner, but it's not that. And but the reason I did that is this thing's essentially going to have 4 big transformers hanging in it, and each one of them humming along at 60 hertz AC or whatever it's going to be running, doing its inverter thing for the solar power. And with all this sheet metal, you know, it's just gonna act like a huge amplifier. So I'm thinking that you know, coating it with a kind of a sound deadening material will, instead of just regular old paint, might help cut down on some of that racket. You know, it's gonna be in a server room, data center, who cares, I guess, but you know, plus I think the finish looks a lot nicer too. So anyway, thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and feel free to post any comments. And you can also reach me at MacGyversWorkshop@gmail.com. And you know, don't forget to ring the little bell icon thing there so you'll be notified the next time we put videos up. Because like I say, you never know what we're going to be working on next. And if you're not too careful, you just might learn something. See you next time.